Hello, my name is Miriam, and today I'll be presenting the case analysis of Emily Charlton from the film The Devil Wears Prada for this psych and film project. So, Emily is a senior assistant to Miranda Presley in a highly demanding fashion environment in New York City. She is constantly comparing herself to the models and her coworkers and repeatedly talks about needing to lose weight in order to be successful and be seen as like a valuable member of her team and environment. The culture of the fashion industry values thinness and perfection, which strongly influences how Emily views herself. For the diagnosis based on the DSM-5, Emily displays symptoms consistent with anorexia nervosa, the restricting type. Symptoms include the restriction of food intake, intense fear of gaining weight, and a distorted body image. In the context of the film, Emily's eating disorder is often normalized because the people around her see thinness as an expectation rather than a health concern. When considering culture, like globally, eating disorders are not diagnosed equally across societies because there's just variations on how people perceive beauty, the importance of thinness, and there's just different fashion standards and ideals throughout the world. And also, it's not really diagnosed or recorded properly in different societies, and this is because of the varying access to therapy, and some societies don't really accept or talk about mental health. It's kind of like more stigmatized in some areas than others. And then as for the stigma, some people see eating disorders as a choice, like they're just kind of like just eat, just take a bite, it's not that deep. And some people glorify eating disorders instead of seeing it as like something that needs fixing, a type of like thought process and behaviors that are abnormal. They kind of see it, they kind of glorify it. They regard it as like extreme discipline and caring for one's health. But yeah. And all of these things leads to a lot of shame, and it leads people to avoid treatment because they're embarrassed. And yeah, so these cultural pressures towards thinness increase the risk of disordered eating, as seen in an empirical research article listed there. For evidence, according to the DSM-5, diagnostic criteria includes restriction of food intake, fear of gaining weight, and body image issues. For the first system Emily presented, it was restriction. There's a quote in which she says, "I'm just one stomach flu away from my goal weight." And this is when she begins avoiding eating before her trip to Paris because she has like a very specific like image that she would like to represent herself by, and she's constantly dieting. For her second symptom, she has a very extreme fear of gaining weight because she associates her self-worth with thinness. And in the movie, this is seen in which like she says that she only eats a cube of cheese when she's feeling faint, like she's about to pass out. And this is just because she is very afraid of gaining weight, especially because she has like this big event coming her way. As for the weaker symptom, or the symptom that isn't really emphasized in the movie, it would just be the medical complications of eating disorders. And this would kind of just include how with eating disorders, especially the restrictive type, there can be a lot of like heart complications, kidney failure, constantly feeling bloated, nauseated, sick, fatigued. And this isn't super emphasized. Her feeling like tired kind of is, but the more like extreme side effects, such as like heart issues, kidney issues, just like the body not functioning as it should, that isn't really touched in the movie. She's not necessarily like the main character, which is probably why it wasn't highlighted. It's not really like the main part of the show or part of the movie, but still. For treatment, I think CBTE would be best. This is just like individual cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's specifically geared towards eating disorders in adults and adolescents. And I think this one would be pretty beneficial because it discusses and attempts to change these distorted beliefs and attempts to like create better habits, better behavior patterns. And it introduces normal and healthier eating patterns to sort of like improve body image. And it kind of like with these discussions and constant like reinforcement, it really highlights the importance of health over appearance, and it improves symptoms and reduces relapse in anorexia, as a research article by Fairburn proves. Some barriers to treatment is just like the denial of the illness. Some people just even in themselves, they don't really recognize it, or they just kind of feel like it's not necessarily like a big deal. They aren't even aware of what's happening sometimes. And then for her, Emily specifically, the work culture really reinforces and encourages eating disorders. It's just like especially in like fashion industries, high fashion industries, where that's like the standard. It's kind of like it's really like expected for you to have like this certain image. So that kind of high pressure environment really like induces eating disorders. As for the broader perspective, the film portrays cultural pressures accurately. It highlights the normalization and lack of concern for disordered eating behaviors, especially in high stress environments, especially in fashion, as I said, in which like the models have a very specific look to them. And although Emily wasn't a model, just being in that environment, it's very easy to be sort of influenced by that. The medical seriousness wasn't highlighted, not super touched upon, as I mentioned, but that it is something that is very important when it comes to eating disorders. The way that your body sort of loses control, it loses its like ability to regularly function because it just doesn't have energy. It highlights how appearance and perfection outweighs the psychological and just physical suffering that comes from these disorders. It just like it's just sort of like vain a little bit, but that's just sort of what it is. And the movie, I guess, like it uses humor to portray the disorder, which can sometimes cause viewers to undermine the seriousness of it, because it's very common to like joke about your problems. So sometimes the viewers can perceive that as just like, oh, it's just like another, so just something that happens, not that big of a deal. But overall, media portrayal of disorders is very important as it influences the public's attitudes and beliefs. It influences how people view the disorder. It influences like how seriously one would take it, highlights like symptoms to look for, and overall it just spreads awareness and information regarding the disorder. So media plays a really big role in how people view and just like interact with people that have these disorders, or just like it really like influences their preconceived beliefs about people. So it's very important to have like more just like more representation, and also just more accurate and helpful representation. And then here are my citations. Thank you.